Evening. Welcome. I'm here tonight living testimony of what Mozart would have looked like if he had lived into his 40s and moved to Park Slope. I have to tell you, as someone in my 40s, I feel so much more comfortable with a wig on tonight than I have on stage in a long time. So good to have you back. We have an amazing show tonight. The show is called Mainly Mozart. You can see the family resemblance. He actually be more animated and entertaining than I am tonight. But we are so lucky. We've got amazing beers from Single Cut. We're going to meet our brewer and taste a lot of beers. Those beers are going to be coming around in just a hot second. And we are going to be hearing from, check this out. We've got some conservatory grads. Some of them graduated today from Juilliard. And they're celebrating their graduation with us tonight. And they are amazing. We also have an incredible pianist, two amazing singers, an accompanist, as well as an orchestra who plays vegetables. And I know you're thinking, gosh, you know, how many vegetable orchestras do I have to sit through in 1 week? Man alive. But these folks really do take the crude out of crudité. I worked on that. I did. And I'm really fired to see them. So we're going to be talking a lot about Mozart, but not exclusively about Mozart. So that's why the show is called Mainly Mozart. But I can see that the beer is coming around. So the proper beer etiquette is to take at least one and also pass it down, and we'll have a bunch going around. So we have 4 beers tonight. There's also Lagunitas available at the front. So if you feel like you're in the middle of the show and, gosh, I really need another right now, you know where to get it. All right, so how far are we along on getting these beers out? We're in great shape. So, without further ado, I'd like you to meet the person who helped make this beer. The brewer of Single Cut Beersmiths in Queens, Rich Bucetta. Welcome. Oh, thank you. Cheers. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. So everyone, this is Rich. Rich, this is everyone. All right. So Rich, tell us a little bit about this beer.
This is called our 1933 Pilsner. This is the first beer that we ever brewed when we opened our brewery about 5.5 years ago in Astoria, Queens. I'm gonna at some point I'm gonna talk about my love for classical music, and one of the highlights of finding the space that we're in right now is that it's right down the street from Steinway Pianos, which is pretty incredible. And I was incredibly excited when we found the space. It was the ideal space. I'd been looking for close to a year to find the right location and building that had all the specs that we needed for a brewery. But the fact that this was down the street from Steinway Pianos I found very inspiring. Steinway Pianos are the ultimate purveyors of craft anything. But long story short, I'll come back to it later. When we were building out the brewery, the principals of the factory came to introduce themselves to us and let us know how excited they were to have us in the neighborhood, which was incredible. And I went on to tell them how excited I was, inspired I was to be down the street from them. It's been a great friendship ever since, so much so that they actually gave us a Steinway piano that we had in our tap room. True story. We had to give it back because we ran out of room, but gave it back with the proviso that when we opened up our second location, which we're going to be doing next week, we're going to get it back. So, yeah. So,
whoa, there's a lot packed in there, Rich.
There was. Anyway, so back to 1933. 1933 Pilsner. Pilsner is the... I've been a beer fan for a long time, going back to when I was in high school, which is going back many years.
You can't actually be a beer fan in high school, not legally.
I was.
For the record.
I leapfrogged, the macro brews, and back then, if you wanted something unusual and challenging, craft beer in America back then were imports. There wasn't a craft beer scene in America back then. So The imports tended to be Pilsners, lagers, pretty much. And that's what I cut my teeth on. So I've always been a fan and appreciated a very good Pilsner. So with the advent of craft beer in the United States, tended to be very ale heavy and not a lot of emphasis on lagers because they're very challenging to make, for one thing. Two is that people found them a little conservative in terms of their profile. And I guess you could say that, but that's kind of the beauty of it too, is just trying to find how to make that as well as you can and really come up with something that's within that parameter but has its own uniqueness. Very challenging. So I took that upon myself, and this is the beer that we brewed as a result of that challenge. 1933 is our address, and 1933 is also the year that Prohibition ended. So it was a pretty cool coincidence. So we had to, take advantage of that. So that's the origins of this beer. It's a hybrid of a Czech and German style. Czech Pilsners tend to be a little sweeter. German are a little more hoppier, have a little bit more bite. This to me is a good hybrid of the two. I think that answered the question. That's right. That's right. Yes, yes. So the gentleman mentioned that lagers, the yeast involved in creating lagers ferment from the bottom of the vessel versus ales, which the yeast tends to rise to the top. Lagers are fermented colder. Number of other things. Whenever you see the commercials for Coors and other breweries where they say,
Is that when I taste the Rockies? Do they actually put Rockies in there?
Well, they claim that they do. They also claim that their beers are cold filtered and cold conditioned. Every beer is cold filtered and cold conditioned. Wow. It's the only way you do it. So, just a little tidbit. Anyway.
All right. Now we know. It's like you've blown it for Coors in this crowd. Blown it. These people never drink Coors Light again. Well, Rich, thank you so much for bringing this out. We're going to talk a lot more about your brewery, about your love of music as we go through the night. Rich is going to be back multiple times with each beer. So thank you so much for the 1933 Pilsner.
Yeah. Thank you.
Everybody's got? Okay. So I'd like to introduce you to our first artist of the night. And we're going to start with the piano player, because it was the piano where Mozart started as well. When he was about 3 years old, his sister was finishing up a piano lesson, and little Mozart toddled over to the keyboard and started to play. And that's when his father recognized that he had a major talent on his hands. Now, he played just about every other instrument out there, with very few exceptions, especially strong at the violin as well. But he was really made his name as a keyboard artist. In fact, one of the ways when he first moved to Vienna in 1781, he was in this piano duel with Muzio Clemente. Emperor Joseph II had summoned both of these incredible virtuosos to his castle for a Christmas Eve piano battle. Clemente was said to have won, but Mozart really showed him what he could do, and that was the start of his career in Vienna. So piano is near and dear to all of Mozart's music, and to play some of it for us tonight, please welcome Xianjin Wang. Xianjin Wang. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Here, come stand over here. Come join me. Come join me over at the microphone. Thank you, Ricardo. That was beautiful. One of the things I love about Mozart's music is that it's both, it can be very quiet and introspective, and it can also be playful, and there's always the sense of grace throughout every piece of it. So tell us a little bit about what we just heard.
This is his sonata, Curse of 311 in D major. It's one of the smaller D major that he wrote. He has another 2 D major sonatas, and the second movement is beautiful. It's, I would say, his slow movements always have a very memorable, very lyrical, slow melody that's always very deep to the heart for me. Like, all slow movements are beautiful. And the third movement, as you see, it's very playful, always cheering, and goes well with the beer, I hope.
So, like, when you play Mozart and you're talking to me, is it an emotional experience because I look so much like Mozart?
You make me nervous.
Yeah.
And the one behind you, too.
Yeah, that one. He's kind of an unhappy Mozart. Because you know what's going to happen later? We're going to beat him about the head until something comes out of him.
Oh, no. There's goodies inside.
So, Shane, you recently did something pretty amazing, which is you were touring through the UK and Europe, and I think you had to learn something like 4 concertos in a month. Tell us about that.
Right. Yes, definitely was a challenge for myself. It was 2 concertos that I have played before and 2 new ones. So it's the Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 2. That was a Russian month for me. And I did Tchaikovsky 3 and Tchaikovsky 1 and 3 and then Scriabin Piano Concerto, which actually not a lot of people know about. It's a great, beautiful concerto. More people should play it.
So, how did you come to have to learn and play all of them within a month's time? It seems like a lot of music to get down.
Yes, it have a beer in between, and relax your mind. Just take one thing at a time. I think it's just a lot on the mind too, and also it's emotional. It's emotionally very fulfilling, very overwhelming sometimes. But it's a challenge for myself, and I did it, and I learned a lot from this experience. And I joined play with the Royal Scottish Symphony Orchestra in Scotland. They are great musicians. They were also doing just as much, and they had concerts in between the week that I was there. So they were doing even more repertoire. So.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know coming up later this year, you're going to be playing in a crypt, which is probably a step up from playing at a beer party.
Oh, so they don't have beer.
But you also have a record coming out.
Yes. It's actually this record, the Scriabin Concerto with Tchaikovsky 1 and 3. Number 2, don't worry, I didn't skip number 2. Number 2, I actually recorded previously with the same orchestra, Royal Scottish. It's already out, so this November, this new CD will be out, containing 3 concertos.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
And I know you have to split, and you're not going to be able to hang with us for more drinks, because you have to get home for bedtime for a little one, right?
I can tell her this wonderful story here that I see almost a Mozart showing up.
It's like having a vision of the composer in front of you.
Yes,
it's very life changing.
Yes. Very inspiring.
So I guess here's the question: as a parent, do you believe in the Mozart effect? Do you feel like does everybody know what the Mozart effect is? There've been kind of like a very little bit of science and a lot of hype about how if you play Mozart for kids, they get smarter.
Actually, interesting thing was that for my little daughter, and I was actually preparing for a recording of a Argentinian composer. I don't anyone of you know. Name is Hinistera.
Mm-hmm.
And his music is actually, of course, exactly the opposite. Very, very, very modern.
Thorny.
Yes, that's
edgy.
Edgy.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
See, Mozart knows more. And so I actually, and then I discovered that she was bothered by it. Yes, because she couldn't sing in tune, and and then after I play Mozart, she's very happy, and she's always very, very focused, and actually can listen to it. And I was always thinking Mozart's music is, if I ever have to make somebody happy or comfort someone, you would bring Mozart up on the plate. I think it's definitely a good one. Yeah.
I think so, and you did that tonight. Thank you so much, Xianjin Wang.
Thank you for having me.
A round of applause. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mozart.
Well played. All right, friends. Well, so so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to play a little bit of trivia, and I'm going to be handed some very important materials, which are these. So the way we do Beer Jam trivia, as some of you know, is that I ask you a few questions, and hanging in the balance of these questions are these thank you gifts. And you guys all seem like you're WQXR listeners, right? Yeah. Many of you listen to the radio station. You might have noticed something different about the last couple of days, right? We're doing a critical fundraiser because we couldn't be here on the radio without listener support. And so one of the thank you gifts that we talk about is this WQXR tote bag at a contribution level of $10 a month or $120 all at once. And we talk about it as an MC Escher design. Everybody have an MC Escher design on their college dorm room at some point? Maybe with like crows or alligators and stairs or chess pieces? Yep, that's what this is. The designer Christoph Nyman designed this with taxi cabs and pianos, two things that move in New York City. And inside of it is a gorgeously wrapped Leonard Bierstein. Yeah. It's got the conductor's hands. These are his actual blue hands on the mug. We got them specially licensed. Those are the hands. And this is the Leonard Bierstein. So the trivia tonight will be for the tote bag and the Bierstein. So I need a volunteer from the audience. Who is willing to... I see a hand up that's been up since I even got out here. When I first came on stage, that hand was up. Come on up here. Please welcome the person with a hand up. Here. What was that? Oh, good. Well, I'm glad to have you. Tell me your name.
Debushri.
You say that again for me one time?
Debushri.
Debushri. I get that close enough?
Yes.
All right. Welcome. Where are you from?
I live in Morristown.
Morristown, New Jersey. I grew up in Millburn, New Jersey. It's like a 201 connection happening here. Now we're 973, but that's okay. You know, we change with the times. All right, so here's how trivia works. I'm going to ask you a series of questions about Mozart, or myself. I'm going to ask you some questions about me, and if you get them right, or not, you will win this tote bag. Debashri, is that I'm getting that right? Okay, here we go. So if you've seen the movie Amadeus, you may believe that Mozart was poisoned by his arch-rival Antonio Salieri and died at age 35 while working on his final piece, an unfinished Requiem. We still don't know what really killed Mozart. The theories have been everything from syphilis to an undercooked pork chop. That's true. But we do know that the Requiem was eventually completed. So who was ultimately able to finish Mozart's final masterpiece? Was it A, the composer Franz Joseph Haydn, who wanted to honor his friend's legacy? B, Mozart's wife Constanze, who in fact wrote most of his best stuff anyway? C, Mozart's student Franz Sussmayer, who felt an obligation to fulfill his teacher's vision? Or D, method actor F. Murray Abraham, who really wanted to get inside the role of Antonio Salieri?
His student. C.
That's correct. You're correct. The answer is Franz Sussmayer. A few people tried it. Constanze really needed that commission, and so she got one of his students to complete it. And so what you hear when you hear the Requiem is a bit of Mozart and a lot of Sussmayer. But it's good quality Sussmayer. Best Sussmayer ever. All right, moving on. Now, Mozart was born on January 27th, 1756, in Salzburg, Austria. He was baptized the next day in the local church, and his full given name was written down for the very first time. It was a long, long name. Which of these names was given to Mozart at birth? A, Amadeus. B, Chrysostomus. C, Wilhelm. Or D, F. Murray.
Amadeus.
I'm sorry, that's not correct.
No?
Interestingly enough, his given name at baptism was Johannes Chrysostomus Wolfgangus Theophilus Mozart. Johannes Chrysostomus was the saint's day. That was his saint's day. Wolfgangus was from his grandmother's side. Theophilus means loved by God, Gottlieb, or, as he later changed it to the more colloquial Latin, Amade, or Amadeo, or Amadeus. So it was later in his life that he took the name Amadeus, but it was not on his baptismal record. See, you learn things at these beer jams. And it's not just about tasting the Rockies with the cold filtering. There's actual history here. Okay, moving on here. Leopold Mozart was one of the OG Tiger Dads. He recognized his son's genius and felt an obligation to nurture this God-given talent. But it wasn't enough to be the boy's first teacher. What else did Leopold Mozart provide for his son? Was it A, gave him a prepaid cell phone so he could call home each night while touring Europe?
No.
B, personally conducted every orchestra when the young Mozart appeared as a guest soloist? C, arranged for investigators to prove that Mozart was actually a boy? Or D, arranged for after-school method acting classes with F. Murray Abraham?
Number 2.
Actually, no, the answer is C. When Mozart was first on the scene, he was such an amazing talent that some people thought he might have been somebody with dwarfism, that he was just a little person who had an amazing talent and was being passed off as a little boy. There's a famous story when an investigator brought in Leopold Mozart and his son and presented a new score that neither one of them had seen before. And not only was Mozart able to play it and sing the parts, he was able to correct his father when his father made mistakes. But what shows that he was really truly a little boy and not just a little person who happened to be passed off as a child. There was a cat that entered the room, and Mozart stopped playing and went to roll on the floor with a cat and couldn't be coaxed back to the piano. All right, I have one last question. You are doing so well. You are 1 for 3, which puts you within striking distance of a winning record.
Okay.
Let's hope she wins this one. Okay, here we go. Now, Mozart fell in love with a soprano named Aloysia Weber. She eventually turned him down for a better offer. Ever the gentleman, How did Mozart respond to getting dumped? A, never spoke to her or anyone in her family ever again. B, immortalized her as the villainous Queen of the Night in The Magic Flute. C, told her she could kiss his ass. Or D, changed his relationship status from it's complicated to in a relationship, but now with F. Murray Abraham.
The second option. No.
It's a good guess that you think she was the Queen of the Night, but in fact, Aloysia Weber and Mozart got along just fine. She was a talented soprano. He wrote many parts for her, and he married her sister. But at the time of getting dumped, Mozart went to the piano and loudly said, "Anybody who doesn't love me can kiss my ass," which was just kind of like along on the spectrum of one of the worst potty humor sensibilities in all of classical music. But you've gotten one question right so far, which makes you a winner of Classical Beer Jam Trivia.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Let's have a big round of applause, please. Thank you so much. All right. This is going really well, except the problem I'm seeing here is that you all have beer and I don't. Rich Busetta of Single Cut Beersmiths, can we fix this problem? Let's hear it. Wow. Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
All right, cheers.
Wolfie, cheers.
Whoa, this is different. No, I mean that in the best possible way.
Yeah.
This is just different than the one we had before in every possible sense.
Is everyone drinking this right now?
Has everybody had this? Okay, so
Okay.
what are we drinking?
All right, so this is a sour beer, and sour beers
You don't
are
say.
Yeah. Well, sour beers are what separate the enthusiasts from the lay people, I guess you'd say. It takes a little bit of an acclimatization to get the hang of a sour beer in terms of enjoying it in your palate. This is it's a goza, which means it's a sour beer that's brewed with salt, heavy salt addition, sea salt, and we add lemon verbena to it, and as well lemon rind. And it's called Chrissy.
Yeah, so why is it called Chrissy? Because I think one of the things I want everybody to know about Single Cut Beersmiths is that when you check out their beers, and there's a lot of them, they have some unusual names, not your typical run of the, light and dark and lager and pilsner. Tell us about why this is named Chrissy.
Well, Single Cut is we're a musically oriented brewery. Single Cut is named for a body style of guitar that I've played most of my life. I actually started my musicianship playing classical guitar because my parents, who are classical music fanatics, would not allow an electric guitar in the house. So they said, but a classical guitar, that is a proper instrument. You can play that. So I took on the classical guitar. I still play it to this day.
But do they allow this in the house?
But electric guitar is something I play a lot of and I have throughout my life. Single Cut is named for that style of electric guitar that I play. And all the beers that we create under that banner are either named for guitars or pieces of musical equipment or artists that I really respect. And most of it tends to be rock-oriented. And rock is a predominantly male which, I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, but that's just the reality. So a lot of the names tended to be male, and we recognized that and thought, wow, all right, we've got to get some females into the mix. So Chrissy is named for Chrissy Hine, who I've always admired and thought was an incredible artist.
Yeah, do we have some fans of Chrissy Hine and the Pretenders in the house? Come on, let me hear that. Yeah, for Chrissy Hine.
Yeah.
Is this the first salt beer named after Chrissy Hine that we know of?
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. Thank you so much, Rich. Cheers for this.
Cheers,
we'll
guys.
talk again later on.
Thank you.
But as you can see, we are getting set up for our next performance. And this is one of those unusual situations where I'm going to have to say, again, I've never seen this. It just doesn't happen that often where, I have to say, who made your cucumber? You talked. Is that a Stradivarius cucumber? Is that like a 1756 cucumber? But here we are. So please welcome to the stage the Long Island Vegetable Orchestra. Yeah.
We are the Long Island Vegetable Orchestra, and I think you're going to recognize the first song we're going to play. You all plugged in? Is he plugged in? Okay. You go. 3.
The Long Island Vegetable Orchestra. Wow. So Dave Battaglia. Daniel Battaglia. Dale Stuckenbrook. Thank you so much for bringing the band. You want to introduce us to your bandmates, please?
Sure. In the corner over there, we have Vincent on the vegetable cello. Then we have David on the grand violin. Raise it, raise it.
Wow.
Then we have Alexandra on the regular violin and also auxiliary percussion. Then we have Annie on the cucumber.
Nicely done.
Then we have Dale on the slide carrot, and very important. And I was playing the daikon. I will also be playing the regular carrot flute also.
So Dan, I'm going to just take a wild guess that this came about with a CSA share that you just didn't know what to do. You're like, where am I going? I'm just not going to finish this week. What do I do next? So, I mean, am I right? Am I getting there?
I think that sums it up. Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
So how did you come up with the idea of a all vegetable orchestra?
You want to take that?
I started it with students that needed to be inspired by music, their last chance in 8th grade before they didn't have to do it anymore. So I was trying to find something for them that they would remember and that they could do. And I tried music theory and drumming, and everything failed.
Yeah, the music theory wasn't in the big one, like, I'm going to remember this kind of thing in 8th
Correct.
grade. Yeah.
I thought I could just, a little bit of harmony, and no. So I saw the Viennese Vegetable Orchestra in 2005, and they're a fantastic group. And they inspired me, and I tried to do it many, many, many times with great failure, since I'm not a scientist. I go by feel and whatever. So it took me a while, but we got it, and the kids loved it, and it was something that we continued. And then I did it for about 10 years, and then Dan came along, and he's a master builder of many things.
Wow.
And he upped the level of what I was doing with intelligence. And
So would you say that you two, master builder and kind of original genius, like the Lennon and McCartney of vegetable orchestra, vegetable musicians?
That's a good way to put it.
So did anything change when you went organic, or is that not a thing?
well, it changed when we went biodynamic. Sorry.
I don't even know if I get that.
Okay.
So how long do you have to play, like, the cucumber? Is that, like, at what point do you, like, I got to get a fresh one?
So, part of our orchestra is not only did we learn how to build the instruments, but we also learned how to preserve them. So I would say that now, with all the techniques that we use, we can get about 5 solid days on cucumbers and daikons. There are some instruments like the slide carrot that, hours. And there's nothing you can do about that. It's just the way it is.
So like a slide, so a slide carrot's gonna last hours, and so after a long night, and it's done, and do you put it in your pocket? I mean, where do you put it? Is there a case for these things, or like a refrigerator? You just put it in your pocket?
We keep everything in the cooler.
Yeah, I would imagine. Do you ever, like, when you're talking to each other, like, you sound a little not so fresh?
We're all very fresh with each other.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so since this is a mainly Mozart show, do you have one more for us that you can share?
We sure do. We do have a Mozart.
Do we have to grow any additional instruments to do the Mozart, or are we good?
No, I think we're good. I'm just fixing this string real fast.
And what is this, the grand violin?
This is the grand violin. The reason why we call it the grand violin is because the body is much larger, because these strings, these are called bamboo chord strings, so they don't vibrate nearly as well as real metal, so we needed more body for the resonance. And when I did that, it became very heavy. So we figured that we would increase it in the back of us so that when you hold it, it's actually balancing, and it's counteracting the extra weight.
Wow. And is that made, what are the materials here on the grand violin?
So we have bamboo cord strings, and then we have all bamboo on the outside. This is hemp string for a nice decoration. That's pretty much everything. And we use lots of glue. We need lots of glue to make this work.
Can I ask, are you like a vegan orchestra?
That's a good way to put it.
Are there any animal products used here?
Animal products? No, I think we're good. Except we do use animals to eat our instruments when we're done with them.
I noticed that in the green room. There's a lovely sheep. We're going to bring her out later. She is starving right now, but you got to keep her away from the snacks because we've got a whole orchestra she's got to eat later on.
I got something fun for you right here. What is this?
I'm going to go butternut squash.
No. This is not a butternut squash.
No, no butternut
No.
squash. It's like a Jewish vegetarian's worst nightmare.
This is my squash trumpet.
Let's have one more round of applause and a little more music from the Long Island Vegetable Orchestra.
You in tune over there, David?
the Long Island Vegetable Orchestra. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was an amazing performance. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions about the vegetables? How about, like, did anyone notice how pitches change as we play?
No, they were all.
How much you have to be flexible.
So, did you start with another instrument? Like, I mean, were you just like a carrot man or a daikon guy? Like, did your parents say, "Listen, it's time for you to pick out an instrument. I want you to go to the refrigerator, and you can either choose in the fruit drawer or the vegetable crisper." And what did you choose?
Believe it or not, I chose the clarinet.
And he thought the big money is in daikon.
Yeah, you know what? My mother said I would never make money in music, but I think this is the way.
Have you heard anything like this before? All right, a big round of applause for the Long Island Vegetable Orchestra. Thank you. I would like to say that no vegetables were hurt in the making of this performance, but that would be a lie. And I'm not in the business of lying to you, especially during a fund drive week. You know that we can't be here with the Long Island Vegetable Orchestra or anyone else without listener contributions. And so I want to thank you all for being. Everybody's a member here, right? Like everybody? Are there any non-members I can shame real fast? I just got a second here while we're striking just to shame some non-members. I love doing that. So listen, the next beer jam that we're going to do, as of now, we have not yet booked any fruits or vegetables, but we do have Conrad Tao, the great piano player. We have an Instagram star, an amazing violist named Drew Ford, aka That Viola Kid, and we have the mezzo-soprano Samantha Hankey, as well as a classical comedian, like a real guy who is a classical comedian. So he's going to be here on June 15th. I hope all of you will be here as well, and tell your friends. And we're going to have beers from 6 Point Brewing out of Brooklyn. So all the beers. What was that?
What is a classical comedian?
That is someone who's made some interesting life decisions. And he does classical music on the piano. His name is Igor Lipinski, and he also does jokes and bits and amazing tricks. I think there's some magic involved. All right, so like I said, whatever led you to like magic and classical music and comedy brings you here to a beer jam at WQXR on June 15th. And again, I invite all of you to join me. So coming up later tonight, we still do have the amazing group JHM Jams, some recent grads and some recent Juilliard kids. We're going to have another game. This is a new game that we've not yet tried, so I need a volunteer. But I need a volunteer who is of a certain generation who has experienced online dating. I am old enough that I met my wife in real life. I know, it's like embarrassing to say right now. But we met through a friend. It's like saying like out loud, I was born in the 1900s. All right, so do I have someone who with online dating experience to join me on stage right now? Come on up. Welcome. Come over to the mic. Don't be nervous. This is only going to hurt a little bit. I'm Matt. Jonathan.
Yeah.
Welcome. Where are you from, Jonathan?
Boston.
Boston. Okay, that's all right. I'm still going to let you stay. I've got no, I've got in-laws in Boston, but I'm still going to let you stay. So, our game tonight is going to be called Composer Bachelors. So we went on to Tinder, and we found composer profiles, and we're going to show you the obscured one, and I'm going to ask you to guess who the composer is based on their Tinder profile. So our bachelor number one is a court organist at the court of Weimar who says, God, music, long walks, and strong coffee. Grew up in a big family, want to have a bunch of kids of my own. How does 20 sound to you? Come check out my band on Friday nights at Zimmerman's. I'll put you down on the list. Always DTF, down to fugue. Can you name this bachelor composer?
Give me.
There's a lot of clues up there. And I honestly, even with the black eyes, if you don't see handsome right there, I don't know what you're looking at.
Oh, I don't know.
Anybody in the audience want to help him out? It's Johann Sebastian Bach. There he is. Oh, what a punim. If that's not marriage material, I really don't know what is. All right, you're doing great. And remember that whatever happens here, you're walking away with a tote bag and a beer stein. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to bachelor number 2. He's a pianist and composer who is self-employed. He says, I make music for a living, also for all mankind. Just on here looking for my muse. My ideal first date, the Rhineland's finest, me playing Bach at the piano, you shouting sweet nothings in my ear. People say I'm the ultimate romantic, and my motto is, true love is immortal.
Help me out.
Really? All right. He's shouting sweet nothings in your ear. You know, he didn't put in this, but his original profile, it says, people tell me I'm not a good listener. I'm helping him out. He got it. Jonathan,
All right,
Beethoven. There he is, Ludwig, age 30. Yeah. Okay. So moving on to bachelor number 3. You're doing great so far. He's the vice Kapellmeister at the court of Prince Esterhazy. He is 29 years old, just 4,000 miles away from here. He says, I'm the father of 104 symphonies that I know of. In an open marriage, only woman I ever loved got sent to a nunnery by her parents. I'm an expert at courting, and friends say I'm full of surprises. So basically, I'm more fun than your ex.
Say?
You've been online dating before, haven't you? Yeah, you're still there. Oh, so you probably have seen him already. Do you know? Can we reveal it, please? Franz Josef Haydn. That's a strong nose. Very handsome young man.
I think so. I'd swipe right.
You'd swipe right on that? Moving on to bachelor number 4. He's 25. He's a concertmeister at the court of Count Colorado. He's a former child star, still pretty famous, TBH. People hear me play and wig out. A regular Don Giovanni with the ladies, 5'7" in heels. And if we don't work out, maybe you've got a cute sister. Poop emoji, poop emoji, poop emoji. Laughing face, laughing face, laughing face. Keep it at 100, keep it at 100, keep it at 100. Wolfman, 1756.
Wolfman? Wolfman? Mozart.
Mozart!
Look at that. I got that one!
Well done. Yeah, that's Wolfgang. And yes, he did actually use poop emojis in most of his letters. All right, moving on to one last bachelor. He says he's a composer at Teatro alla Scala. He's a kind of hopeless romantic. I'm a mighty hunter of wild fowl, operatic librettos, and attractive women. Not looking for anything serious now. Been described as Verismo king hot. Most of my favorite women die in Act 3. But let's see if we can go the distance.
I was hoping someone would say something.
You're hoping someone will say something?
I was hoping I could hear it. Yeah.
What would you hear if people were to say, whisper very quietly right now, a hint for him?
Puccini.
It's Puccini! Look at that! About Puccini! Jonathan, thank you so much for playing Bachelor Composers on Tinder. Here's your tote bag. Thank you so much. I love you even though you're from Boston.
Thank you very much.
Let's hear it for him. Okay. I see everybody's got, does everybody have their next beer? And remember, if you ever run out, there's Lagunitas and it's, I think, single cut. This is how you know that I've had a couple I'm in. There's some single cut at the bar. That's when the night starts to get fun for me. But please welcome Rich Busetta back to the stage to tell us about this next beer. I am gonna get cut off. But after a rousing swipe through Tinder, I have to say, like, I'm just all scattered and overstimulated. So,
Can I give you a fun fact?
Yeah.
I actually met my wife online.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a true story.
Was that like a CompuServe thing?
This is we were. Wolfie. I thought you were so sweet, joyful young man. We were early adopters. This is going way back. Anyway, sorry to derail you.
Actually, I was going to ask you a little bit as we're drinking about your past life, because you started out playing guitar surreptitiously,
Right.
and you listened to QXR at home, but you kind of had this other career before you got into brewing.
Right.
Can you tell us a little about it?
Yeah, I was in advertising for most of my life. I used to love it when I was a young man, and then as you climb the ranks and became more and more senior and accepted more and more responsibility, it became less and less fun, in my opinion, and eventually I really didn't like it at all. So with my wife, who I mentioned I met online, and her support, decided that I just couldn't do it anymore, and I quit without a plan B. But I'd been homebrewing for many years, and my whole life I've been a beer enthusiast. Whenever I travel, it's always some kind of road trip to breweries or pubs that I want to visit and that sort of thing. So I knew the next chapter of my life was going to be beer related in some way. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to throw some balls in the air. So I brought some of my home brews around to some breweries, and I got hired.
Wow.
So yeah, true story. And basically, I went from an executive in advertising to the guy who cleans kegs in the brewery, which is the equivalent of the dishwasher in a restaurant. But I loved it. It was great. I got it on the ground floor, and I worked really hard and became a brewer. And found that it was something I really enjoyed, and that I was able to make use of the creativity that I used to use in advertising that eventually went away. I was able to interpolate that in my brewing and my recipes, and that's basically the story.
That's a great story. Give me a round of applause for following your dreams. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'll drink to that.
Cheers, man.
Wow. So what are we drinking? This is also different.
Yeah. So this is an IPA. For those of you that follow craft beer, it's all about IPAs today. And in my opinion, the reason for that is of all the ingredients that you can use to make beer, the one ingredient that has been cultivated and experimented with and provides the most amount of variety are the hops. And hops are what you're tasting in this beer are the hops. That's what creates the bitterness and the fruit flavors and citrus and stone fruit and all those other characteristics that they use to describe various IPAs come from the hops. And that's where the predominance of all the experimentation is coming from on the growing side. So that's why it's so hop heavy now, and IPAs are incredible. This is our session IPA, which means IPAs tend to be 6.5% alcohol and above. And I've always been an IPA fanatic, but my tolerance I've always been kind of a lightweight. To tell you the truth,
worse than mine.
it's probably up there or down there. So making a session IPA was very important to me, something that's 5% and that I can enjoy with and get up the next day and perform, and do my job and all that. So this is our version of a session IPA. We call it 18 watt. 18 watt is a amplifier that is a very small amplifier. So like the small ABV, 18 watt amplifier has small wattage, and that's the analogy there.
All right, let's hear it for him. Rich Busetta, the 18 watt IPA. We will see you again. Thank you very much. So Mozart always had his heart in the opera house. That was where he kind of got to express all the things that he could do as a composer and as a kind of a documentarian of the human condition. And because also in his time, all the big money was in the opera commissions. And that's as true as it is today. But so we couldn't do a Mozart show without a little bit of opera. And so I'm really pleased to welcome some friends from the On-Site Opera performing a little bit from The Secret Gardener. This is one of Mozart's early operas, a much lesser known work, and they'll do a translation. Please welcome first tenor Spencer Viator.
So real quickly before we begin, just to set the mood of what this is, I've just been forcibly made to get married to a woman I don't really want to. Then I see her, and I'm going to sing a lot about how beautiful she is and how she's basically stunned me.
She's a dream, a dazzling vision, God in heaven. She's a wonder, God in heaven. She's a wonder, she's a wonder. To behold her is to love her. To behold her is to love her. I'm completely overcome. To behold her is to love her. I'm enthralled, I'm overcome. I'm enthralled, I'm enthralled, I'm overcome. I'm completely overcome. Yes, overcome. Yes, overcome. She's a dream, a dazzling vision. God in heaven, she's a wonder. Fresh and radiant as a sunrise. To behold her is to love her. I'm completely overcome. To behold her is to love her. I'm completely overcome. I'm enthralled. I'm completely overcome. I'm completely overcome. Yes, overcome. Yes, overcome. I'm overcome.
Spencer Viator. Dmitry Glavinsky, by the way, on the piano. We couldn't be here without him. Dmitry, thank you so much. True fact, he is a craft beer hound. He's been trying to try single cut for a while. But if you look at the map between where he lives and where single cut is in Astoria, you can't get there from here. So this is a real treat, and it's a real treat to have you. Thank you so much. Spencer, why don't you join me over here? Now, why don't you, it's like, I feel like you could be the, I feel like we just have a three-way conversation. Tell me a little bit more about this role in The Secret Gardener.
Okay, so Belfiore has, the character I was playing, he's run away from an engagement and then has now basically gotten a new engagement to a woman named Arminda.
Mm-hmm.
She's not the nicest of humans, but she's very pretty. And I then run into her servant, who is a gardener. It turns out to be the woman I left due to very shady circumstances. And
in the original, it's
in the original,
yuck.
it's very dark.
Yeah.
We've livened it up a little bit, and from there, chaos and madness ensues. There's lots of love triangles and pairs and couples, and no one's working out until the very end. And everyone gets what they deserve.
That keeps coming back in the theme of the opera. So you've performed this opera a couple of times now, and it's always been, in part because of its on-site opera, in an unusual setting.
Yes, so that's part of on-site opera's a big thing. It's something I'm a big proponent of, which they're doing site-specific opera. So when we did The Secret Gardener, we performed it twice. It's the first was in the West Side Community Garden on Upper West Side, which is a very beautiful, intimate venue. It was in the round. The tulips and all the flowers had just bloomed. It was great, except for the last day where it was 48 degrees, but not the best garden day, but it was, we got through it and it was beautiful. And then we went down to Atlanta and did it in the Atlanta Botanical Gardens. And so they had just redone this huge outdoor space with a fountain, and there was a huge staircase that had this big proscenium and everything. So we just had the audience there, and we ended up even using that huge down area by the fountain where they were just random guests of the park coming around, and we'd be in full costume in just acting and interacting with people, and it was a lot of fun.
How is it different interacting with people and plants than being in an opera house or more traditional theater?
Well, for the most part, most of the people in this room are too close for an opera house. We have the pit, we have everything else. So
you want them to move back?
I love it when people are close up in front. It makes it more visceral. It makes it more alive. You get to experience it, and you're not thousands of feet away where the drama doesn't exist anymore. And I think that that's something that bringing it to something that also then the site around you creates the set. It creates a different intimate experience, and I think it actually can get people who haven't even gone to an opera or think opera's not for them. When you're sitting 5 feet away from someone and someone's gonna hit a high C in your face, it kind of changes. It changes how you feel about things when your body is viscerally vibrating for someone just with their voice.
And this is part of On-Site Opera's whole mission. Eric, you're the head of On-Site Opera. Is he here today?
There.
Welcome. There's Eric. He leads On-Site Opera. And later this year, there's going to be a premiere of Greg Kaler's Sketches of Frankenstein that's going to happen in a catacomb in Greenwood Cemetery. And also a December production of A Mall, am I getting that right? And a December production of A Mall and the Night Visitors, which will include a chorus of people who have experienced homelessness as part of a partnership with Breaking Ground. Mm-hmm. So this is an organization that's taking opera into new and unusual places with new and unusual people and really helping to promote that, bring the art form forward. So thank you very much, Eric, for doing that. And thank you, Spencer, for doing it as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Spencer Viator. Dimitri, I need you to stay because we have one more singer from this production of The Secret Gardener. Please welcome Kristen Gornstein.
The arms of another, laugh at my suffering, ignore
Kristen Gorenstein, please step over to the most awkward interview position we've had so far, where Mozart can literally like hang over your shoulder.
Yes, about right.
Kristen, that was amazing. Tell us a little bit about that aria.
Well, Run to the Arms of Another. Luckily, it's in English, so I think that's a cool part of what we do with The Secret Gardener. You know, you can follow along and know that it's not a happy song. Ramiro is in love with the beautiful and not so nice Arminda that Spencer mentioned, and they were engaged. They broke up. I don't want to spoil it, but this does turn the tables a little bit. So he was kind of puppy dog following her around for a lot of the aria, and this mixes it up. So it's my chance at being a man.
Was this your first time coming to the role?
It was, yes. Yeah, it was. And now this will be the third time we perform it, so it feels like it's sinking in, and I'm really loving it. Yeah, I really like to sing the pants roles, which is what I do mostly, play Hansel and Gretel, boys or men.
And so you mentioned the third performance, so that is upcoming when?
It is July 13th at Caramore, which is in Katona, New York, just upstate a little bit.
A verdant garden-like setting as well.
Yeah, there's a fountain, there's some flowers. It should be very, very beautiful. Yeah.
So if you haven't made plans yet for July 16th?
13th.
July 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Okay. It's a Friday the 13th?
It is.
Wait, we were last here Friday the 13th. Remember
Nice.
that, people? All right, Friday the 13th in July. Go to Caramore. Kristen's going to be there. Dimitri, you going to be there? Okay.
No, just
We've
me.
enjoyed having you, though. I want you to know that. Dimitri Levinsky. Kristen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
A big
you.
round of applause for Kristen, Dimitri, Spencer, and all of our friends at Onsite Opera. They're doing amazing work. Check them out this year. We have our final beer coming around. I know, it's just a sad thing to say. It's like I feel like I'm saying last call. But I'm not, because there's more beer outside, everybody. You know, I have to say that there was a letter from Mozart in the late 1770s when he wrote to Vienna and asked for an ill-fitting suit in your finest polyester. And he was really psyched because he was eligible for overnight delivery as a Prime customer. And everybody said, you look like a sad Hamilton audition that went wrong. No, but I feel like this is what Mozart would have worn to his Hamilton audition. So if I can get real a second for just a millisecond, please welcome Rich Busetta back to talk about the Workers Are Going Home Double Dry Hopped Imperial IPA. Welcome.
Thank
I
you.
feel like Mozart is really looking over us tonight, literally like right over our shoulders.
Blowing in my ear, kind of
Yeah.
weird.
So here we go. I want to ask something. So I've enjoyed having all of these beers. Thank you so much. Can we get a round of applause for Rich for bringing all these beers from Single Cut tonight?
Thank you, people.
Amazing. They're delicious. And that's one of the things I love about Single Cut. I actually toured the Steinway factory and went to Single Cut, the tap room. And it's like so many different beers with so many different names, an incredible range. And I think we've tasted some of that range tonight.
Cheers. Thank you.
How do I find Single Cut beers when I'm not in Astoria?
Right. We are distributed. We're actually in 8 states now. All throughout the Northeast. Our space in Astoria, which, when we took it, it looked really big, and I thought, wow, we're going to be here forever. And we were going to be there forever, but we've outgrown it, so much so that we are opening our second location. We're going to make the announcement next week. We're going to start brewing next week in this new location, which is about 3 hours north of New York City. It's going to open up the availability of our beer considerably, because right now we're distributed in all these states, it's spread a little thin, which is a good thing. It's always good to undersaturate than oversaturate a market. But this is a big deal for us. I would love to tell you the details on it, but we're in an NDA right now. I can't reveal anything until next Tuesday, Matt.
Okay.
But we'll make the announcement on our website next week. If you're interested, please check it out.
Hey
it's a
guys,
big deal
I'm
for
going
us.
to email all you with the information once it's... No, I'm serious. I'll
you,
email
Matt.
you with the information next Tuesday so you know.
Cool, thank you. We're drinking, this is the last beer. This is an IPA again. It's a double IPA, which means everything is just stronger, more hops, more alcohol. This is 8%. This beer features experimental hops from Europe and New Zealand. There's so many IPAs on the market. It's really important to try and create your own signature, your own taste profile. Otherwise, it's just parody. So that's one of the things that I focus on. And finding these offbeat hops that you can make beers with is my goal. And this is an expression of that.
And the name, Workers Are Going Home.
Workers Are Going Home comes from a lyric from Weezer, one of my favorite bands. So, there you go.
We talk about Weezer a lot here at WQXR. It's one of our members. And so the workers are going on. How do you follow that? Mozart. I'm so sorry. So can we have one more round of applause for Rich Busetta? Workers Are Going Home, double dry hopped Imperial IPA, Single Cut Beersmiths in Astoria, and a new location coming soon. You will all hear about it from me, I promise. Rich, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.
All right, cheers. Thank you. So for our final act tonight, I want to introduce you to some really amazingly talented young musicians. So if you ever found yourself wondering what conservatory students do when they're not playing Fortnite, here is the answer. They get together and they play pop covers. So please welcome, for music from a very well-known child prodigy, JHM Jams. amazing Stevie Wonders. Isn't she lovely? JHM Jams. Anthony, right? I'm going to introduce you to the band. So we got Anthony Bracewell taking that violin solo. Rachel Sue, cello. Right here we have Sumire Hirotsuru, violin. Karen Grace, bass. Cameron McIntosh, drums. And Ken Kubota on cello. Are you allowed to do that to a cello? Ken, I'm going to give you this microphone for a second because I want you to tell us a little bit about what JHM stands for and how it came to be.
I don't know if I should say what JHM stands for publicly, but it stands for Juilliard House Mafia. Technically, we're not allowed to because it's branded. It's copyright, trademark, all that thing. So we're not that.
We're everything but Juilliard House Mafia.
Everything but Juilliard House Mafia. When people ask, I just say it stands for Japanese Hungry Man. But now you have inside information.
And so, how did this group come to be? What is this band?
So JHM is essentially a cover band. Essentially.
You didn't write that one?
So we started originally as I took a music technology class at school. I produced some tracks for the assignments, and I wanted to have more people hear it. So instead of making music videos, I started putting small casual covers on Instagram because it was only 15 seconds. So that was easy to do every Tuesday and Friday. Then eventually it became this kind of ensemble where it's a platform to kind of showcase all my talented friends, because classical musicians, we tend to be very picky and not put ourselves out there on social media of us playing. So this was one way to do it. The other way, or I guess the other goal in this, is to bring pop music to the classical musicians and also make classical musicians more accessible to the general public. So that's kind of our project, essentially. So the members are never set. We have a roster of, I think, over 140 musicians now.
Wow.
And then, they just come, whoever can come, and we just make a cover whenever we want. So every time you'll see a different instrumentation, different members, and this happens to be the band for tonight. So.
Well, an excellent band. So you have another cover for us, and I have to admit that I had not, this is just, dating myself. I was born in 1756, and so I haven't kept current with a lot of the bands that have come along. And I had never heard of Clean Bandit.
Yeah, so Clean Bandit is one of my favorite bands. They originally started as a classical string quartet, I believe somewhere in England.
Sure, let's call it England.
Yeah.
I'm good with England.
Somewhere over there. And then one of their friends, apparently an electronic music artist, kind of threw some stuff over their things, and eventually they became this pop band of sorts, and now they're huge, and we're going to be playing one of their hits called Rather Be.
All right, JHM Jams and Rather Be by Clean Bandit. for JHM Jams. Sumire Hirotsuru, Ken Kubota, Rachel Sue, Anthony Bracewell, Cameron McIntosh, Perrin Grace, the current iteration of JHM Jams. If you want more of this, they have an amazing YouTube channel. They're on Instagram. You should follow them there, but you should also check out their YouTube channel. It is filled with videos that are just as amazing as that. Now, I have to ask a question. 2 of you graduated from college today. Sumire and Cameron. So can I get everybody who's part of this show, all the musicians, please, who've been here tonight, to help us celebrate. Would you mind coming over here for a second? We're going to make a little room. We have everybody who's part of the show out of our Classical Beer Jam. Come on up, come on up. We got our Long Island Vegetable Orchestra. Let's give it up for them. Dmitry Glavinsky, Kristen Gorenstein, Spencer Viator of Onside Opera, and Rich Busetta of Single Cut, who's provided all the beer tonight. And I would like our today's graduates to come over and do the honors of opening the Mozart Pinata. You are Cameron. You are effectively like the birthday boy and girl tonight. You've done a major accomplishment. You've both graduated from Juilliard. Unbelievable. And Winter Marsalis has spoken to your commencement today. Also very cool. So would you please do the honors and see which one of you will be the first to open Mozart up and let all the riches fall upon you and all of us for many years to come. Well, you pull one of the strings and see what works. Here, come on, make some room. Yeah, pull a string. Pull more strings. Yeah! Everyone, thank you so much for being part of our Classical Beer Jam. Thank you to our artists. Congratulations to our new graduates. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and we hope to see you again on June 15th. And I will email you the new details of Single Cut's new space next week. Thank you all. Have a great night.